Alright, welcome back. It's Autodesk 3ds Max 2018 YouTube Classroom. This is video number 13. Today is quarter 1, week 2, day 3. This is the simple lighting and rendering video. We are going to take all the different things that we have done so far. We've got our island with our material. We've got our box. We've got our AEC primitives. We've got our ocean. Now what we're going to do is render it out and set it up with some lights and set up a camera so we can get a good render of it. So in order to do that, let's start first with the camera. Cameras are actually pretty easy to set up. You're going to go up here in the Create tab, go over to Cameras right here. We're going to use a target camera. We're not going to be using a physical camera because that's not what we're going to be doing today. All you got to do is left click and drag out the two options. Now when you hit W, make sure that you're set on view up here in the reference coordinate system, because we're going to need to select the camera and we need to move it around, and then we need to be able to select the object, the target box, and move it around. Now here's where we're going to get tricky-ish. What you want to do, and everybody's island is probably going to be slightly different, which is cool. But what that means is every single scene is going to be different. So you're going to have to set up how you're going to best show off your scene. Now, you'll notice that I'm moving this around just like I move any other object. But the target is what the camera is always looking at. And that's the important part. So we've got this sort of setup like this. I'm actually moving this camera around, but you can't see what it's doing, because what I need to do is Alt-W, and then I'm going to right click on, or not right click, I'm going to go over here to orthographic, select camera, camera 1, and then instead of wireframe I'm going to show let's see, let's just do performance, and then let's turn wireframe override off. Standard there. So now when I move this, and we can adjust these panels so that they make more sense, I'm also going to right click down here, hold control or shift F, so we actually see what the camera sees. Now I'm actually going to move the camera around in the top view, and you'll see what it's moving, how it looks in the bottom. So as I rotate this around, you can see that I've got my pivot, or my target point right here. I can actually select that and move it so that it's right pointing at my treasure chest. And it's not really super easy to use, but you sort of, once you get the hang of like how it works, it's set. So if I move around here, I can hit Shift F because I don't need it to be like that. Now I can actually just move this around until I have the scene exactly how I want it. Now I want this scene to be set up so that I see the ocean and I see my cool little all the work I did on the treasure chest. So I'm probably going to have to move the treasure chest around. What we can actually do, if we really want to, we can take the cube, the target cube. Where did you go? Target cube. Underneath somewhere. Target cube. You know what? Let's pretend I couldn't find it. H, press H, find cameras up here. Camera target, just select it and click OK. Now I've got it. Cool. So there we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this target cube. I'm going to get it lined up just where I want it. And then I'm going to take that target cube. Actually, I should probably do that first. Take that target cube, lift it up, and I'm going to select and link. So I'm going to link that target cube to the chest. Now, whenever I move the chest, the target cube moves with it. Alright, now I can also select the target cube and move it so it's more perfectly aligned with the chest, and maybe I probably just want it so it's right on top of the chest instead of on the bottom. But now I can take that chest, oops, I can take this chest in this upper view, and I can move it wherever I want. Now if you're like me and you resized your chest, you're going to have some small issues when you try and rotate it. Don't worry about that now. we'll talk about how to but if you look at it, see how it twists and like warps a little bit? That's moderately annoying, but I think we're just going to be okay with it for now because I don't want to mess with it anymore. Then we already have, this project is getting long. All right, cool. So I'm going to rotate that like this. And now I'm going to move the camera so I get a good view of everything I want to get a view of. I want the chest itself. Maybe a little bit of the mountain. I wonder if I could put the chest up here. That could be cool. So I could take the chest. I can click down here. Right click in this window. And then I can set it all the way up. Oops. I can set the chest because that's what I want to get. And I want to set it up on this ridge. Why? I don't know, man. Because it's cool like that. I like it there. I don't know. So there. It's going to sit right on that ridge. That is a determined pirate. Stuck it up on that hill. Just like that. Cool. And now I can take my camera, select the camera, and move it around. Move it down. Like that. Maybe even move it in some. Move it down. Move it over. You want to set it up so you're getting an idea of what it looks like. So that's kind of cool. If you like it like that, that's fine. You could also slide side to side and you're moving the whole thing. So you have like a better idea of how it's going to look. And maybe I can even move it down some. Cool. And now from here I right click and I can render it, F9. When I render it, it's going to, alright, if it renders from a weird spot, you can choose the viewport for the render up here where it says quad 4. We want to make sure it says quad 4 camera and then hit render. It should render there we go. Cool. That's pretty good. So we can see we're much closer here because we can see all the bumps in the sand, and yet we see some of the island, we see the trees, we see the water. That's a pretty good scene, actually. It's kind of got the rule of thirds, kind of. We could probably do something like that. Looks like it rolled a little bit. You can rotate it. If you rotate it, you want to rotate the actual camera itself. You can rotate that there. So that it's a little, make sure angle snap is off, otherwise it's up to you really. But I want to make sure that that's nice and straight. Make sure you get the right angle that you're rotating onto. Cool. Hit W, move up a little bit. So we can see a little more of that gold. We can even grab this and rotate it a bit. I just want this. Alright, cool. So I've got all that set up. It's W. There. That's kind of cool. Now this is probably distorted a little bit because of the rotation. Now there's a reason for that we're not going to get into right now. But now we can see how it's going to render. So hit F9. Now currently, whoa, that's weird. It didn't look that twisted before. So F9. That's closer. I don't know why it's being twisted, but that's weird. Anyway, the point is that's not a bad shot because you get a little bit of everything you have. Now, the only thing we need to do now is look into lighting. We can also move our ocean if we want, since we know we're not going to have the ocean behind us. And if we want to make sure that it's sort of, we're seeing the most of it as possible, we can sort of use that as our guide. So we can move the ocean if we want. Also, Now we need to add some lights, because if you don't add lights, you're not going to get much of a specularity highlight off of this sort of ocean. So the way to create lights, and I'm going to maximize this top view, Alt W, is we're going to go into the Create tab again, which is over here, the plus, go to Lights, and I'm just going to set a free light. There's sun positioner, there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but we don't really mess with that stuff a whole lot, because most of the times we work, in the game engine rather than with lighting in 3D Studio. So for now, I'm going to hit F10 again. Well, actually, let's look at the light properties. So this light is going to be on. We don't need targeted. We're going to use global settings. Uniform, we want uniform spherical, and then emit light from shape, we're going to do a rectangle that's 2000, and let's do 5000 by 5000. Oof. Cool. That should be good. Now we should be able to hit F9. It may not render from where we want it. We'll see. Oh, you know what? I forgot to crank up the light value. The light is still really, really dim. So all we're getting is the little bit of the gems that are glistening from their own light. So let's knock that up to, let's just hit 9s until it hits enter, and then it's going to give us like 10 million? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, yeah, 10 million. Okay, F9. F9. Come on. And we're going to quad you to render. Sure. For now, we'll take it. All right, cool. So lighting is where it brings your computer to its knees. And the more lights you have, the more difficult it's going to be to make it look good. It's going to take a ton of time to render. So it might be a good idea, but you can see how nice that looks. For one, it might be a good idea to go ahead and grab this plane, and then grab the plane itself and knock that back to 1 for now, because that will lower all of the requirements. I'm also going to go Alt W. I'm going to right click over here and maximize this, because we're going to, well, not yet. I'm going to make some copies of this. This is not the most effective way to do lighting, but it will work. I'm going to hold shift and drag another copy of it over here. And we're going to make an instance of it. So whatever we do to one will automatically do to the other. So if they're all way too bright, then we can work with that rather than we can work with one and it'll sort of apply to all of them. I'm going to make a copy of that one, and I'll move it over here. Shift. I made them into squares so that it wouldn't be quite such a obvious light. Let me go ahead and grab all of those and then move them up on Z a little bit. All right, F9. Let's see how that goes. Oh, we're getting a render from the top again. All right, so we can cancel that. Make sure we're in our camera 01, and then try it again. All this renders quick. It's only when we hit the ocean that it really starts to chug. But you can see the lighting is already significantly better. The free rectangle, notice we do have shadow map properties. Although we've got so many lights and lights coming from so many directions, it's not going to give us a whole lot of shadow. We're also not getting the glitter that I wanted. So we're going to stop this now. Cancel. There's a little bit of shadow there, but not enough. So we're going to stop that, close that, grab one of these lights. Now they're all linked, so we can change the intensity. I can drop, well, let's drop it down to 1 million. Enter. And that should do all of them down to 1 million. And we can try it again, F9. Okay, so the brightness is way too dim now. No, it set 100,000. So let's redo that to a 1 million. Just add a 0, hit enter, F9, see how it looks. I'll speed up the video through these points so you don't have to wait around. Alright, cool. So that's not terrible. I still don't think it's bright enough. So F10. Grab our light again. Get that out of the way. So let's do 5. Render. We're going to cancel that because it's rendering from the wrong viewport again. F9. There we go. Cancel. Make sure it's pulling from the right viewport. There we go. All right. It's pretty good. I'm not really getting the highlights that I was looking for. That could be because the actual light is maybe too high off of the water. This would be the light I'm looking for. I can maybe move it back. Move it lower. And that should help. Also, if you haven't done so already, hitting F10 and then knocking down the render dimensions can help, just so you can get a better idea of how it's going to look. It'll be way faster, but it'll also be way smaller. But it should give you an idea of whether or not you're going to get the highlights you're looking for. I'm going to take the rectangle off of that one and put it back to a point. F9. Make sure my glossy is glossy. It is. Well, either way, that's basically what we're looking to do. We're going to go ahead and set that so that you can keep playing around with that and see if you can get those to render a little bit better so that you're getting more of the reflection. If you put the light too close, it'll get weird because then you'll have like a real hot spot in the middle of the ocean. That actually might be a good idea. That could be the problem. I had it too far over. That should work. Cool. Let's try that one more time. I'm going to maximize that. F9. And this one, you can right click on these individually. Like once you have a light selected, so I'm going to select this one. I'm going to right click and make it unique. So I can actually make this one more intense than the others. And then hit render and see how that looks. There we go. We're starting to get that sort of shininess. A little intense, but still cool. Now, the last thing I'm going to see if I can fix that rotation issue. So, for somehow this thing is no longer facing directly up. I'm going to change it to local. Look at it and see if I can rotate it so it's perfectly set. I'm going to go into left view, see if I can rotate it. See if that actually changes anything. view. See if that looks better. That looks like it should be fine. Yeah, almost. Maybe another tiny little bit. 9. Don't be weird. Rendered from the wrong one. Alright, that looks pretty good. Probably could go. That's so odd that it's actually giving me the issues that it is. Render. Okay, so once that's level and I've got that set the way I want it to, I'm going to render it out. And that is our final thing. So now we just need to save it so we can show it off. So now, once you've got your render, we've got to make sure that it's set up properly. So let's go into F10 again and make sure everything's good. We're rendering the camera view. We're doing a single image. And we are going to make sure it's HD TV video. And remember when we adjusted this initial plane back here and we set it to 1 and 1, I'm going to set that to 4 and 4. Now, save your work first before you actually render this because it could crash. I'm going to hit Control S, File, Save As, and I'm not actually going to save the file itself. Well, I am, but you should too. And then when you're ready, right click on the video or the window you want. I'm going to maximize it, hit F9, and then wait for it to render. And I'll see if I can speed this up so you can see it render but still have it done. Those are nice little sparkles. There's a weird glow there, but I'll take it. You can sort of see the bumpiness, you can see the coins, everything's good. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to save this as my period, which for you will be whatever period you're in, underscore your last name, underscore, we'll call this Booty Beach. Booty Beach. So remember, do not put a number, do not put first, do not put second, just put the actual number. So if you're in 5th period, you put 5, last name Booty Beach, save as type. Make sure you save it as a PNG, and you hit save. It needs to be a 24-bit PNG, and you already made sure that it was the right output size. We're going to hit OK, and then it's done. You're ready. Now you can find your file. It should be in here. Double click, and then Windows 10 is weird, but whatever. There you go. You have something to hang up on your wall and show everybody at home how much work you've been doing. So if you want to extend this, you could probably put another something else out there. You could put a pirate ship or some other craziness. The idea behind how we made this simple shape is really important because often we will make simple shapes and then inset them into other pieces. If you look at a lot of assets in here already, let's see, undo. I'm going to change windows here. Other, let's Control Shift, or Control Alt Z, so I can get everything. If you look at this, this is actually 1 or 2 different types of leaves that are repeated and just stuck into this pole, basically. And this pole is just it looks like an 8-sided cylinder with a little bit of distortion here and there and twists. It's pretty easy. Like, it looks pretty nice, but if you look at it, it's just made of simple things that are put together. Okay? You can do the same thing. And as a matter of fact, very soon you will. For the free 1 project, that's what you'll be doing. You'll be creating something from scratch, and that's how you're going to do it. But for now, this is it. We're done. We set up our scene. It doesn't look good behind the camera, but that's okay. Looks okay for here. All right. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Next week, we're going to learn how to set up concept art. We'll see you next time.